Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something pretty worrying, escalating tensions in East Africa. And this isn't just online noise, it's moved way beyond that. We're talking actual government actions between Kenya and Tanzania and some pretty serious reactions.
Yeah, it's striking how quickly this all flared up. It really puts a spotlight on, well, the delicate balance in the region when these kinds of political and social issues clash.
It seems like the spark, or at least a major catalyst, was when a group of Kenyan activists planned to go to Tanzania. Martha Karua was among them.
Right, and they were going to observe the trial of Tundu Lissu, the opposition leader facing treason charges.
Yeah, acting under the banner of the East African Law Society. So essentially impartial observers, or that was the idea.
Which immediately brings up that whole principle of free movement within the East African community, the Jumuiya.
Exactly. That's supposed to be a cornerstone, fostering closer ties.
But that's not quite what happened at the airport, was it?
No, far from it. They landed at Julius Nyerere International Airport in Dar es Salaam and were, well, detained, and then deported straight back to Kenya.
Wow.
Martha Karua apparently voiced her disappointment quite strongly, mentioned how this action felt like a betrayal of Tanzania's welcoming spirit under Nyerere.
It definitely signals a shift, doesn't it? A much more assertive stance from Tanzania about perceived interference in their internal affairs, especially something as sensitive as a treason trial.
And then came President Samia Suluhu Hassan's reaction. It was very forceful.
Extremely. She issued a pretty stark warning to foreign activists, didn't she?
She did. Basically, stay out of Tanzania's internal business. She even said something like, if activists are gagged in their country, implying Kenya, I suppose they shouldn't come to Tanzania to wreak havoc.
That's remarkably direct language. It shows, I think, a real concern about external influence on their domestic politics and wanting to control the narrative around the Lissu case.
Well, that statement certainly didn't go unnoticed back in Kenya. It really set the stage for a huge digital backlash.
Ah, the online reaction.
Yeah, Kenyans hit social media hard. A flood of memes, edited videos, jokes targeting President Suluhu's speech. The message seemed to be, Kenyan resilience.
The digital space is just such a powerful arena now, isn't it? An immediate, widespread way for people to react.
Yeah.
And it can definitely pour fuel on diplomatic fires.
Absolutely. And then things took a much more dramatic turn. The Tanzanian police force's X account, Twitter reportedly got hacked.
And their AELX account, too, apparently, by anonymous hackers claiming to be Kenyan.
Yeah. Hitting official government channels like that, that's a serious escalation in the digital realm.
Definitely a major breach. What did they post?
Pretty inflammatory stuff. False information about President Suluhu's health status. One message was just Roako.
Roako.
Yeah, and apparently that same message popped up briefly on the Police Voices YouTube channel, too.
Wow. Spreading fake news about a head of state, especially through their own official channels. That's a deliberate move to destabilize, potentially.
The Tanzanian police, they responded quickly, obviously, condemned the posts false, misleading, immoral, all that, said the hackers wanted to deceive the public.
And they vowed to track down the criminals responsible, as you'd expect. Standard response for a serious cybercrime.
But then, adding another twist, access to X, to Twitter, was reportedly shut down in Tanzania right around this time.
Understandable, perhaps, from a government trying to control an information crisis, but it does raise those big questions about, freedom of expression online.
It really does. Okay, so while all this digital drama was unfolding, something else deeply concerning was happening. This involves the Kenyan activist Boniface Mwangi.
Right. He'd also traveled to Tanzania.
Yes, along with a Ugandan activist, Agatha. They were also there to attend Tundu Lissu's trial.
So the initial group wasn't an isolated case. There was a broader civil society interest in observing these proceedings.
Seems so. But Mwangi and Atwa, they were arrested at their hotel in Jerusalem, Tanzania, before the court hearing even started.
A preemptive arrest, then, suggests the authorities were really determined to prevent any kind of external scrutiny.
And the details from Mwangi's wife, Jure, are incredibly worrying. She gave a timeline.
What did she say?
She apparently spoke to him on Monday. He mentioned Agatha was being interrogated and that the Kenyan ambassador had gotten involved. But then, the phone was taken away.
And nothing since.
Radio silence. Complete lack of communication.
Oh, that's awful. Just awful for the family. The anxiety must be unbearable.
Understandably. They're now demanding answers directly from President Suluhu, holding her government responsible for his safety, his whereabouts. They actually said they need to know if he's dead or alive.
God, that phrase,
Mhm.
dead or alive, it just cuts right through. Shows the absolute fear and desperation they're feeling. A total breakdown of trust.
And what's really troubling is the family's criticism isn't just aimed at Tanzania, they're also calling out the Kenyan government.
For their silence.
Yeah, for the silence and the lack of information about what's happened to Boniface.
That lack of response from both sides, it's deeply concerning. It points to a possible failure in diplomatic channels, maybe, and a failure to support a citizen who's vulnerable abroad.
Tanzanian authorities have apparently claimed they deported Mwangi.
Okay. Is there proof?
Well, that's the thing. The family says they've seen no proof at all. And Jerry said, knowing Boniface, he would absolutely have found a way to contact her if he'd been deported.
That makes sense. The silence really casts doubt on that official deportation story, doesn't it?
It does. And the family, they firmly believe that these strained diplomatic ties between Kenya and Tanzania are putting Boniface at serious risk.
It's a logical fear, unfortunately.
Yeah.
When tensions are high between countries, individuals can easily get caught in the middle, become vulnerable.
And the irony here is just bitter. Boniface Mwangi, he's a human rights defender. His whole life is advocating for others' rights.
And now his own rights seem to be violated. With no clear information, no accountability, it starkly highlights the risks activists face, even high-profile ones, in politically charged situations across borders.
The family tried to get answers, went to the Tanzanian consulate in Nairobi, appealed to Kenya's Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Yeah.
Their words were cold indifference, just met with a wall, basically. No information.
That's appalling, frankly. That lack of responsiveness from diplomatic channels is just not acceptable. It suggests a failure to prioritize the citizens' well-being, a real lack of transparency.
And there were reports, just adding to the worry, that Mwangi and Agatha spent a night at the Central Police Station in Jerusalem.
Before communication stopped.
Yes, before everything went silent.
So they were definitely in custody, which makes the subsequent lack of contact even more alarming.
Meanwhile, amidst all this, Tundu Lissu, the opposition leader at the center of the initial activist visit, he did appear in court.
Ah, okay. On the treason charges.
Treason and publishing false information, yes. It was his first public appearance since his arrest back on April 9th.
What was the outcome?
He was remanded in custody, next hearing set for June 2nd. Apparently, he wore a T-shirt that said, "No reforms, no election."
That slogan really speaks volumes about the underlying political context in Tanzania, the calls for reform. His appearance itself is a notable development, though.
And interestingly, former Kenyan Chief Justice David Maraga was actually there in court.
Really? In solidarity?
Seems so.
Wow, that's quite a statement.
Yeah.
A powerful symbol of cross-border support for, justice and the rule of law. His presence would definitely send a message.
So taking a step back, all these events, they have some pretty serious implications for regional unity for the East African states.
Absolutely. Countries in the region, including both Kenya and Tanzania, let's be honest, have faced criticism over human rights before.
Right. And in this specific situation, you have Kenya's maybe initially quiet response and Tanzania's very hardline approach. It raises real concerns about the spirit of cooperation within the EAC.
It really tests those founding principles of the East African community, doesn't it? The whole idea of integration, shared prosperity. It relies on a shared commitment to basic rights, to transparency. Things like this can just erode trust so badly.
Yeah, it undermines that whole vision of a unified region.
It does. You've got activists detained and deported, this alleged cyber attack, and the truly disturbing disappearance of Boniface Mwangi. It paints a really concerning picture of where relations are right now.
And the criticism being aimed at both Kenya and Tanzania for how they've handled this, it's significant. The lack of transparency, the apparent disregard for due process, potential rights violations.
It's all deeply troubling. It forces you, the listener, to really question the strength of that vision for a cooperative East Africa.
So the final thought maybe is, what does this whole series of events actually reveal about the state of play in the region right now?
Exactly. What are the real challenges to upholding human rights, to fostering genuine unity within the East African community? It's a moment that really demands some serious reflection, I think, on the values that are supposed to hold it all together.